Moving on for now, our next story is about WhatsApp. A lot of you would be using it for messaging. Do you think your messages on the Meta-owned application are safe? According to Meta CEO Mark Zuckerberg, US authorities, including the CIA, can access your messages remotely. You heard that right. The CIA can access WhatsApp messages. What does that say about WhatsApp's privacy policy? Is Meta's privacy policy a myth? Is there no such thing as privacy in the digital age? All of these questions come up. Let's break it down for you. Speaking on the Joe Rogan Experience podcast on Friday, Mark Zuckerberg explained that while WhatsApp's encryption prevents Meta from viewing message content, it does not protect against physical access to a user's phone. His comments came in the context of a question by Rogan about Tucker Carlson's quest to set up an interview with the Russian President Vladimir Putin. In February last year, while speaking about finally succeeding in talking to Putin after 3 years of failed attempts, Carlson blamed the US authorities, namely the NSA and the CIA, for stalling his efforts. According to Carlson, the agency spied on him by tapping his messages and emails and leaked his intentions to the media, which, quote-unquote, spooked Moscow from talking to him. Now, you must be wondering, how can this be possible since Meta has bent over backwards to tell us that its end-to-end encryption protects messages, photos, videos, voice messages, and what have you? Then how can anyone access WhatsApp messages? That was the question, in a way, thrown at Zuckerberg as well. Rogan asked Zuckerberg to explain how this could have happened, given encryption safeguards that are supposed to protect messages. This is what the Meta CEO had to say, quoting, "The thing that encryption does that's really good is it makes it so that the company that's running the service does not see it. So if you are using WhatsApp, there is no point at which the Meta servers see the contents of that message," quote unquote. He says that even if someone were to hack into Meta's databases, they could not access users' private texts. However, he noted that encryption does not stop law enforcement from viewing messages stored on devices. He says what they do is have access to your phone, so it does not matter if anything is encrypted. They could just, quote unquote, see it in plain sight. So it seems that the US government can effectively bypass the platform's end-to-end encryption in a way. Zuckerberg mentioned tools like Pegasus, a spyware developed by the Israeli company NSO Group, which can be covertly installed on mobile phones to access data. According to Zuckerberg, the fact that users' private messages can be jeopardized by directly breaking into their devices is the reason Meta came up with disappearing messages, where one can have one's message thread erased after a certain period of time. He said, and I'm quoting, "If someone has compromised your phone and they can see everything that's going on there, then obviously they can see stuff as it comes in. So having it be encrypted and disappearing, I think, is a pretty good kind of standard of security and privacy," quote unquote. Zuckerberg's remarks are significant as they come at a time of heated debate surrounding digital privacy and government surveillance. While end-to-end encryption is undeniably effective in protecting user data, agencies like the CIA and FBI insist that it obstructs their ability to combat crime and terrorism. In fact, a 2021 FBI training document clearly states that US law enforcement can access encrypted messages from services like iMessage, WhatsApp, to a limited extent. However, they cannot access messages from platforms such as Signal, Telegram, WeChat. And even if an encryption key is present, messages are secured during the transmission. Backup stored in cloud services could still be accessed by law enforcement. It all raises that age-old question, doesn't it? In the pursuit of national security, what really becomes of personal freedom, of the right to privacy? Imagine walking into a donut store, craving a delicious donut, only to leave empty-handed. Sounds like a bad dream, right? Well, that's exactly what's happening in parts of the US like Nebraska and New Mexico, where Dunkin' customers are facing a rather unexpected crisis: no donuts. Dunkin', formerly known as Dunkin' Donuts, is reportedly out of its most iconic treat. Stores in Omaha, Lincoln, Grand Island have reportedly posted signs at their entrances and drive-through kiosks stating that no donuts are available due to a manufacturing error. What is this mysterious error all about, you're wondering? Well, reportedly, the shortage is a nationwide problem. Dunkin' attributed the donut shortage to production challenges and logistical delays that have impacted around 380 stores across America. And this is not the chain's first donut crisis. Back in 2021, they reportedly faced a similar shortage. But this time, the issue has spread like wildfire, with empty donut shelves reported in other parts as well, leaving many Americans baffled and bereft of their favorite sweet treat. Our next story is about Sunita Williams and Butch Wilmore. They traveled to space in June 2024. That's how long back this was. They spent Christmas and New Year in space, and there is still no clarity in a way on when they will return to Earth, even after all this time. What is keeping them in space? Let's get you all up to speed in case you've not been following the developments. It all started on the 5th of June 2024 to be precise, when Sunita Williams and Butch Wilmore blasted off to space as test pilots on Boeing's new Starliner craft. 24 hours later, they arrived at the International Space Station. However, the mission was already off to a rather shaky start. The Starliner experienced issues with its thrusters and faced helium leaks. As a result, the astronaut duo, who were initially scheduled to be in space for only 8 days, ended up becoming stuck in space. Their spacecraft was deemed unreliable for a safe return home, leading to an extended wait. The astronauts remained aboard the space station for 2 months while Boeing conducted tests on the vehicle. Eventually, the Starliner returned safely in the first week of September, but it did so empty-handed. Boeing and NASA decided it was too risky to put the astronauts' lives in jeopardy, which is why their stay in space was extended. In late September, SpaceX launched 2 astronauts on the Crew 9 mission instead of the usual 4 astronauts that typically travel to space. The 2 empty seats were reserved for Williams and Wilmore, who were scheduled to return, but their return would be 5 months later, in February 2025. Fast forward to today, after spending all that time in space, there is still no clarity in a way on when they will be brought back home. The Crew 9 spacecraft was supposed to return in February with Williams, Wilmore, and the 2 astronauts who flew to space in September. However, Crew 9 cannot return without the next mission, Crew 10, reaching space. Unfortunately, Crew 10 is delayed and is now expected to launch only in late March. And as a result, Williams and Wilmore will have to spend an additional 2 months orbiting the Earth. Just for context, here's how things work at the space station. The existing crew must hand over their duties to the new crew before departing for Earth. In this case, the new crew has not yet arrived. Although astronauts are well prepared and adequately trained, a prolonged stay in space does raise concerns. Extended time in space can affect the human body and its functioning, impacting everything from blood flow to heart muscles, bone density. And to counter these effects, astronauts need to spend more than 2 hours a day exercising. Meanwhile, Sunita Williams is breaking records in space. She has now spent a total of 543 days in space, making her the second most experienced US astronaut. And very soon, she will be performing 2 spacewalks in addition to the 7 spacewalks she has completed in the past. Spacewalks are typically carried out to inspect and repair hardware on the external parts of the space station. In a recent in a recent video, Williams has spoken about their prolonged space stay and her work up there. Listen in.
It's just been a joy to be working up here, particularly with our counterparts on the other end of the space station. It's just a great team, and no, it doesn't feel like we're cast away. Yeah, eventually we want to go home because we left our families a little while ago, but we have a lot to do while we're up here. We've got to get all that stuff done before we go home.